Hi, I'm Lori Creever. Welcome to our interview with author Colin Nelson. His novel is called Reprisal. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, Lori.
You have written an amazing thriller, and it's based in Minneapolis.
Yes.
How did you get the inspiration to do this? A lot of people want to write a novel or have started one. How did you pull this off?
Well, I started, actually a couple ideas came together. One, for people who have lived in the Twin City area, these young Somali boys were disappearing, and it was a story that ran for almost 2 years. And the FBI had a theory. A few of them showed up in Somalia who had supposedly been freedom fighters, but a number of them remained missing. So I thought, well, it's kind of an interesting topic for people in the Midwest here, and it contains a certain amount of mystery.
Absolutely.
But then I thought, well, what do I do with that? I was in the library in Southdale looking for a book by an author who writes a lot about plagues. And
light reading.
Yes, it was
Cheerful.
Fascinating. I remember reading it. I put it on my blurb in my book. In 1979, smallpox was eradicated from the planet. However, for future research purposes, scientists kept 2 repositories. One is at the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia. The other's in a city called Vector, Russia, in Siberia. That's when it all clicked. I thought, what would it take for some desperate Russian to sell the smallpox virus to a terrorist?
Right.
Not much.
Not much, yeah.
And so that's how the 2 ideas came together. The terrorists get the smallpox. They're going to infect the boys, the young Somali men who disappeared, send them back into the schools, and since no one has an immunity to smallpox anymore, it would be bad.
It would just level the population.
It would be bad.
Wow.
So
beyond being a curious citizen who's well-read on plagues, you are an attorney.
Yes.
That's your profession and your day job.
It's my day job.
That must also be fertile territory for inspiration on coming up with stories.
It is. I have to say that all the courtroom scenes in the book, it's a book of fiction, all the courtroom scenes are true. They're true. There's a whole saying that real life is stranger than fiction. Well, it is. I have certainly changed the characters. Some of the characters are composites of different people and judges and other people I've met over the years. But the cases and the situations are absolutely true. There's a scene where in fact, when I first started practicing, there was a judge who had a couple hand puppets, and to give a verdict, he would duck down below the bench and raise the hand puppets, and he'd say guilty or not guilty with the hand puppets.
It sounds like a sitcom. It sounds like that TV show Night Court.
Yeah.
So zany.
But that was true. It was years ago, but it was true.
Yes, truth can be stranger than fiction. Well, it's a real page turner. It really, really is. And what got me right at the beginning was it's a post-mortem, right? Is that what you call it, right? When they're doing an examination.
The prologue,
of,
it's an autopsy.
Yeah. Trying to figure out, and that's, I guess, kind of where the detecting begins. And of course, they don't figure out because it's the first chapter, and then they have to go through the whole rest of the book to get the light bulbs to go off for people. But something that I really appreciated and I found to be nicely contemporary and well done, strong, smart women.
Yes.
Your opening chapter is a smart woman, an Asian woman, a doctor.
Who's ambitious.
Very ambitious.
She's been treated differently than the predecessor who was male. So she's kind of angry about that.
Yes. And so are these also threads that you're weaving from what you've experienced, seeing women in the profession, women in forensics, in law?
Yes. The whole criminal justice area, I've been practicing about 30 years, both as a prosecutor and a public defender. And
as has your protagonist,
yes,
your attorney in the book too. She's done both sides.
The current public defender's office in Hennepin County, which is the largest in Minnesota, is one of the most diverse offices. Age, background,
gender, ethnicity, religion.
Absolutely. We actually have at least 2, 3, maybe 4 Muslim Americans in the office. And I thought, that's so interesting, I think. Particularly people have this idea that Minnesota is a Scandinavian, homogenous area, and it's not. It's maybe 40, 50 years ago it was, but today it's much different. And my wife actually gave me the idea of making the protagonist, the female public defender, a Muslim. The terrorists, of course, are jihadist, extreme Islam. She is an American citizen, born in this country. She's a progressive feminist, but she's also a Muslim.
Yes.
And so her struggle in representing the terrorist, the accused terrorist, really explores her whole struggle as a person. She certainly is a loyal American, and she believes in the criminal justice system, the Constitution, presumption of innocence. At the same time, she is forced to defend somebody that she just abhors, that she hates how they've hijacked their interpretation of Islam.
I just have to say, it's brilliant how you set this up.
Well, thank you.
Because I agree with you. I grew up in Minnesota. I did live away for 6.5 years, but still in the United States of America. And though I work in an international division, I still feel like I don't have enough encounters or exposure truly to the diversity of ethnicity, as you say, that's here now in Minnesota, not just in the Twin Cities, but perhaps predominantly so. And one of the many things I love about your story is it gave me the opportunity to be inside the skin of someone I did not know existed, and that is this female lawyer that you described. She is Muslim. She is American. She does not wear the headscarf. She is devout in terms of she really knows the Quran. She's very, very well studied. But she does have a progressive viewpoint, and then you juxtapose her situation with being assigned and rather forced. I guess this is how it works.
Yes, forced.
She's assigned to be the public defender for someone who is apparently, it looks like, a very extreme, traditional
hates women.
Muslim. And he hates her, and he hates women. And like the first scene, he attacks her when they're in the room
in the
jail, and I mean people around. It is really, really scary. It is incredibly scary. So without you...
That's good.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is.
That's what I wanted to do.
It is, and of course, I mean, I'm reading this as a woman, and I'm picturing what that must have felt like for her, no matter how tough she is. Obviously, she's really scared too. Is there a panic button? She presses a button,
There
right?
is. There's a big red button that sticks out of the wall, and you just slap it with your hand, and
I mean, he
deputies
is just a barbarian. He is just awful to her.
Right.
And she not only is assigned to help him, but also at first, I mean, she's trying to get into the spirit of helping him and trying to generate her own willingness to help him. And then she's stuck anyway on the politics and everything. So do you know this type of Muslim?
I do.
Personally, I mean, how did you craft the character?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm not female and I'm not Muslim, so it was a challenge.
But it's a tribute. I mean, I just felt it was
thank you.
important and validating what you're doing, what you're allowing us to explore as your reader.
Well, thank you. Let me answer the first part of that. I met 2 young women who are about Zira's age, the main character, who are both Muslim. One was born in Idaho, the other was born in Missouri. And I got to know them, take them out to lunch, and I'd ask, well, do you drink alcohol? Yes or no? Do you cover? Why don't you? One woman covers, the other doesn't. One woman drinks alcohol a little, the other doesn't. And got to know them. The third source I used was I can't remember her name, but she's similarly a young Muslim American lawyer who's written a couple books. One is a memoir of growing up as Muslim American. The other is a book about why Islam is a feminist religion. And I mean, when I saw that book, I was just shocked because I think the opinion of most of us who are not Muslim.
Not Muslim, right, yeah.
We assume that Islam is very anti-female, and the way it's practiced in many parts of the world, it is.
It's
But
horrible.
this woman wrote an entire book quoting from the Quran why Islam really has many progressive aspects about it. Now, it's been hijacked by various rulers and groups and so on, and perhaps twisted in the way they want it to be in order to dominate other groups such as women. So I did quite a bit of research to create that character. Had one of my friends read the manuscript,
so unique.
and she said, it rings true. So then I felt pretty good about it. But it took a lot of research. And Laurie, I didn't intend it, when I started writing, I did not intend that the book be one of religious tolerance. But that's the theme of the book.
Oh, I mean, that's definitely how it was received by
Yeah.
me. I mean, by the third chapter, I thought, who is this man, this attorney living in the Twin Cities that really you are one of the best espousers of diversity and inclusion I've ever encountered. Ever.
Well, thank you.
And what an interesting way for you to convey, and as I say, permit us to explore in the form of a novel, which is really non-threatening. This isn't a college lecture. This isn't a workshop at church. It's not marching orders at our job. It's a pleasure read because it's a thriller, and it's fiction. But you really bake in some themes. You know, getting back to this idea that there are people that practice the Muslim faith that see incredible virtue and equality with women, it causes me to think of the Nobel Peace Prize winner, Professor Muhammad Yunus. He has a PhD in economics, and he's considered to be the founder of the micro-lending movement to help eradicate poverty in developing world.
I'm familiar with that.
And most of the clients of micro-lending are women.
Yes.
And so reading your book,
isn't that interesting?
I've read a couple of his books, and he talks about when he would try to set up this practice of offering these small loans to women in the villages, oftentimes the local holy man in the village would come and, you know, kick him out or try to kick him out or yell at him. And Professor Yunus had the credibility, because he's also Muslim and he's a scholar, that he could talk them down, so to speak, talk them off that ledge. And this idea that Muhammad, he granted his wife a lot of property and had him run his business interests. I mean, who knows? I was not there. But, you know, that there could be kernels of that if one of the faithful chose to look at that. And I think that's what your character of the protagonist is doing.